Welcome to our YouTube channel. We are here at the Berlin Green Investing Summit. Who are you?
Yeah, so my name is Johan Rockström. I'm a professor in Earth System Science at the University of Potsdam and the director of the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research here in Germany.
You just gave your talk on the climate crisis. What is the current state of the planet?
Yeah, we're facing an unprecedented challenge. We've reached 1.1 degrees Celsius warming, the warmest temperature on Earth since the last ice age, 12,000 years back. We're seeing major social and economic costs in terms of extreme events generated by this warming. But we're also moving towards a trajectory which is very dangerous. We are on a path that will take us to above 3 degrees Celsius warming just by the end of this century, a place we haven't been in for the past 10 million years. And we know that if we pass 2 degrees Celsius warming, we risk really dangerous self-amplifying warming that could mean that the climate goes out of control. So therefore, the scientific message is very clear. We have a major challenge in front of us, and we now need to, and the science is clear here, bend the global curve of emissions no later than 2020, next year, and then cut emissions by half over the next decade, between 2020 and 2030. If we do that, then we stand a chance still. The window is still open, but barely, to be able to keep temperatures well below 2 and aim for 1.5 degrees Celsius warming, which is what all the countries signed on to in the legally binding global agreement on climate in Paris 2015.
What happens if we don't do that and continue as usual?
Well, from the scientific knowledge we have today, once we break through the 2 degrees Celsius point, we risk crossing a planetary threshold where we, as humans, are no longer than the prime cause of warming, but that nature may take over from being what it currently is, namely cooling, to becoming self-amplifying and warming. So we may risk a permafrost thawing, forest dieback, ice melt that leads the whole surface to become darker and absorbing more heat. We risk these kind of tipping points, as we call them, that could self-amplify warming. So if we pass 2, we cannot exclude that the planet herself will bump us up to 2.3, 2.4 degrees Celsius warming. That could take us to a cascade, a domino, that would potentially lead us to 3, 4 degrees Celsius warming, not because we've continued burning fossil fuels, but because we lose the resilience in the whole planetary system. That's why we need to stay as far away from 2 as we ever can.
How should we act now, and how should especially finance act now?
The first thing to do, I think, is to configure all business models and all investment planning and risk assessments in the financial area, having these glasses on, that now is the time to be 100% sustainable in everything we do. We need to recognize that now is a time that if we're going to bend the curve of emissions next year and cut emissions by half over a decade, it means exponential change, not incremental change. And that requires a major shift in business thinking. That's step 1. But then step 2 is to be very concrete. I mean, we can internalize a price on carbon in all businesses. Science is clear here. A price on carbon of roughly 30 to 50 euros or US dollars per ton of carbon dioxide would be enough to start really shifting investment schemes from fossil fuels to renewables or zero carbon solutions. And that can be internalized by any business, by the way. I mean, you don't have to wait until you have formalized carbon pricing. You can have shadow pricing inside your investment schemes. And then third is to start considering investments in innovations for renewable energy and zero carbon solutions, from hydrogen to electric mobility, but also to start saying no to the most obvious negative investments. So this is a form of divestment rationality that can be based on scientifically based targets. So if you say that, yes, we're going to cut emissions by half of the next decade in any business X or Y, it means that I will put a moratorium on all forms of investment related to coal, for example. And we will, from now on, apply an internal price on carbon of 50 euros per ton of carbon dioxide that can guide investment so that we start really deviating in a significant way. And then finally, my advice would be to engage with science and try to adopt scientifically based targets beyond only carbon, to really start including all the planetary boundaries on water, land, nitrogen, phosphorus, oceans, so that one can start operating within a safe operating space on all aspects that regulates the ultimate outcome for the climate.
Let's maybe finish our talk with looking at one sector. What does the climate change mean for agriculture and the production? Can we still feed the world?
Well, agriculture is the single largest emitter of greenhouse gases, roughly 24% according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC. So this is a major challenge. And we are today 7.6 billion people, of which 1 billion people are still hungry and 2 billion people are malnourished. And we are committed to 10 billion people in the next 30 years. So it's a massive challenge. We've done an assessment in the so-called Eat Lancet report that was released quite recently, where we show that...
We'll link that in the description.
Oh, great.
People can find it.
And that we show that if we can adopt healthy diets, which means less animal protein, more plant-based protein, and a better mix of different sources of food, together with sustainable production of food, we can actually feed 10 billion people within planetary boundaries. But it will take a massive investment in technology for production, in the value chain of healthy food, but also in reducing waste. So all this has to happen together, but it is possible. We can, as far as we know today, feed 10 billion people within planetary boundaries from healthy diets.
Maybe let's add another question on a certain region in the emerging markets, India for instance, which is already facing a heat wave of 50 degrees currently. What does climate change mean for it if we continue like this, and will it be able to live there in the future?
Well, we're seeing very worrying signs. India right now, but last year in North Africa, where we are hitting the thermoregulatory levels of temperature. Which is depending on humidity, but at low humidity levels, we cannot survive above 50 degrees Celsius. At higher humidity levels, that number goes down even further. Average temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius can be very dangerous. Actually, average temperatures of 30 degrees Celsius had devastating impacts in Europe in 2003, where we had a heat wave that shortened the life of thousands of European citizens. And it is also the combination of humidity and temperature. So humans are sensitive to too high temperatures. And what we're seeing in India right now is a threat to human health.
Thank you very much for the talk and the insights.
Thank you.